So I introduced them in a bit. So first of all, I'd like to sort of review last session, and then I introduce the speaker and get started. Let's see. So as usual, I would review the previous week so that you have to just refresh your memory a little bit. Last week we had two outstanding speakers, and as well as outstanding translator to the Chinese. I'm sure the Vietnamese translator is the same. Last week we had two speakers, Dr. Murat from Brazil, and Mr. Naveen Masaraya from Singapore. And the key point in what they talk about was that in the case of Phua, he talked about his experience encountering with death, and he was hovering in the air. His consciousness was hovering in the air, and while looking at the doctors trying to pump him back to life, and he was about to go, and then he saw his daughter Krishani walk in. Then he decided to come back. And afterwards, his motto for life is to share, and absolutely non-selfish sharing. All right. And according to him, the sharing means in synchrony with other people. That is, when I'm sharing, I'm alive, but my ego is not there. All right. So he has been doing that, sharing everything about himself with people. And indeed, he talked about, he was late a little bit for the meeting, because when he was visiting his mother in Sao Paulo, and of course, Sao Paulo, as usual, and have tremendous traffic jam. So, but what he said is that both him and his mother cried because they shared frankly on everything. And he said, I know that I have no regret when she passes away. So it was amazing. Afterwards, we have a lot of discussions I heard from people about his talk, right? And our second speaker was Naveen, who was indeed was hair impaired for their for their family's fifth generation business. It's about created in 1872. All right. However, Naveen has, after many years of working for his family's business, he has putting more emphasis in now in the Containment Foundation, working with more than 100 schools in many countries. And but he also shared a beautiful story of sharing that where he lived in Japan now, his neighbor has a coffee shop and offer coffee for free. All right. And his vow is to give away as many cups of coffee as possible. But what the Ming shared was that one of the things he shared was that he was poisoned and in school, in the hospital, and lying in bed. He was asking himself, that he was dealing with capital all of his life, right? Capital means money. That's primary thing. Then lying in bed, he was asking himself the question, what about capital of time, health, relationship, and so forth? And now he works in the Contentment Foundation. He asked the question, how do you work with the school to bring well-being to the student? All right. So these are two outstanding speakers that their discussion has given me at least some deep reflection to think about. All right. Okay. This evening, we also have two wonderful speakers. Professor Murat Tanik and Pastor Pei Hsia. All right. And I introduced Pastor Pei, Dr. Pei Hsia first. Before I introduce Pei, I'd like to first congratulate Pei. All right. Pei's daughter, Renee, who is a professor at the UCSF Medical School, has just been elected to the National Academy of Medicine. It's a tremendous honor. Congratulations. Pei was a professor of computer science and become chairman of the computer science department at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, at a very young age. All right. However, at the height of his career, he received a calling and wrote in a seminary. And then he went to Hong Kong as a pastor to help thousands of people, especially those coming back from foreign countries after study. And he now lives in Austin, Texas, where he got his degree. 40 years ago? I don't remember. But the second speaker is Dr. Murat Tanik, who is the Wallace Endowed Professor for the Telecommunications and co-director of Integrated System Centers. He was past chairman of Computer and Engineering Science Department at the University of Alabama, I think in Birmingham. And he spent more than 3 decades dedicating to the theory of integrating many diverse disciplines together. He was also the co-founder of Society of Design and Process Science, created in 1995. The society was aimed to promote research and education in transdisciplinary thinking. All right. So with this introduction, I'm going to, and also like to introduce Dr. Yu Chen, who is translator this evening. Dr. Yu Chen is assistant professor at the in the business school of the San Jose State University. Right, she got her degree in Switzerland and spent a year in postdoc in UC Irvine. And well, welcome to all three of you to the this evening. And so with that, I want to say the rule of the game for this evening is again that we have each speaker have about 15 minutes to talk about their quest, their journey for the quest, the meaning of life. And then they have 30 minutes to have a dialogue, and we have about 15 minutes then for Q&A from the audience. All right. So with that, I will ask Professor Pei Hsia to start first. Pei?
Okay. Thank you very much, Ray. I think I need to tell the audience that Professor Raymond Ye, was directing my PhD thesis. So Professor Dr. Ye is my professor. Under him, I got the PhD in computer science, okay? But before I start, I'd also like to point out something that this morning when I was in my devotion, I somehow came across this feeling and this idea I'd like to share with all of you. In this forum, we call it Quest for the Meaning of Life. And usually I think we are seeking for the meaning in terms of maybe this is some idea, some wisdom, maybe some process to get the meaning of life. But I like to propose that we need to look at this from a different perspective, that this meaning of life may actually be one person. So consider that the meaning of life may be a person. And the second thing is that we are calling this quest, means that human beings are seeking it, spending effort to seek it. But I also propose that maybe the meaning of life is seeking us, is pursuing us for us to find it. Okay, so after that, I'd like to share two stories in my life. The first one changes my perspective on faith. The second changed the course of my life. So I like to start with the first one. I didn't believe in Jesus because I had a misguided prejudice that all religious beliefs were superstitions. I participated in church services and listened to sermons, but I always felt that they were not convincing. I often tried to uncover loopholes in the speaker's logic. Later, I participated in a small Bible study group and saw them praying before the meeting. After the Bible study, we were led to pray together, but we couldn't see who we prayed to. They said that the object of prayer is God, invisible to the naked eye. I openly laughed at their prayers as talking to the air. Of course, I didn't believe in prayer. The amazing thing is that I experienced personally something that convinced me prayer is not just talking to the air, as I joked about. After getting my PhD in computer science from the University of Texas, I went to industry for a short while, then returned to teach in a university. At that time, computer science was a very hot field. I was the only professor with a PhD in computer science in that university and was therefore appointed as the head of the new department. In addition to teaching, I was in charge of the department. But administration and management have never been my strong points. Too much time was spent in the new department and not much time left for teaching. Most of the students were professional programmers in a national laboratory. They were more knowledgeable with computers than I. In addition, my specialty was in theory and not in practice. Only then did I really discover I regret not studying more. So it took me a lot of time to prepare lessons. I dreaded questions from students. Some of their questions I've never seen before. One day, I went to work and there were a lot of administrative tasks. But I had to teach in the early evening. After finishing the tasks, I closed my door to prepare for the lesson. There were only 4 hours left to prepare for a 2-hour lecture and to prepare for questions that students might raise. The thought of students raising questions made me uneasy. I was afraid that I won't be able to answer them and be embarrassed in class. I started to prepare for the lesson and began to study the textbook carefully, but noticed that while I understood all the words, I couldn't actually comprehend any meaning. It was a totally new situation for me, never happened before. Immediately, I said to myself, "Don't panic, read it carefully and you will surely understand." So I started all over again and found that the result was still the same. I realized that I was just too nervous. So I started over again and found that the result was the same. I realized that I was too nervous and to calm down. I started having heart palpitations and I was unable to concentrate. I always thought I had good self-control. And I said to myself, "Pei, it's okay. You can calm down, just concentrate." But after trying a few more times, my heart just wouldn't listen to me. Watching the passage of time every minute and every second, I simply could not prepare for the lesson. My heart was getting more and more agitated. The more agitated, the more panicked I became. I was not able to find any way to finish my preparation. Nothing at all. There seemed to be no way out. I was totally stuck. All of a sudden, I remembered the Christians in the Bible study group and their prayer, which I scorned, talking to the air. Although I did not believe in prayer, I had to solve the immediate problem. So I decided to give it a try. I got up and went to the middle of my office. I knelt down, sincerely talked to the air. "If there is a God, please help me." That's the first prayer I ever uttered. After a short prayer, I returned to my seat, hoping to finish the preparation. Something amazing happened. I discovered the heart palpitations were completely gone. In exchange, I was calm, no longer panicky, no longer agitated. I finished the preparation smoothly. The incident forced me to concede. My heart was something I couldn't control by myself. It seemed some external force had better control of it. This was a wonder I couldn't imagine. The prayer that I scorned had unexpected effects. From then on, I stopped mocking Christians and their faith, their beliefs. I began to take part in studying the Bible seriously, trying to find out what the Bible has to say. It turns out that the Bible has already mentioned it, and it has said many times, both in the Old Testament and the New Testament, God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. Let me repeat. God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. The exposure shattered my ego. It showed me two things. One, I'm not in total control of my emotions. Some external forces could calm me down. I had to give prayer, which I scorned as talking to the air, a totally different look. Two, it also revealed that my pride blocked me from knowing God. I can rephrase the Bible verse into pride resists God and humility invites blessings. My second experience, the second story is my experience that changed the course of my life. In early December 1998, I flew to California for a meeting. On my return, I inadvertently left my planner, called a daytimer, on the plane and lost it. After discovering the loss, I quickly prayed to God. Then I sensed a voice saying, "You will find it later." This voice calmed my heart and drove away anxiety. When I got home, my wife called the United Airlines and reported the incident. This day timer notebook is not worth much, but it contains the information of all my contacts. If I had to recollect it, it would take an extraordinary amount of time and effort. 2 days later, in my morning devotion, I heard a voice asking me to leave my current job and do God's work full-time. I felt very happy at the time because it was a privilege to be called by God. So I was very excited to tell my wife, but she was not thrilled. Just said, "How do you know this is a voice from God?" I answered, "This is what God said." She then said, "Let's see if you retrieve the lost daytimer or not." I guessed she meant that these two events were somehow related because both involved communications from a different dimension. If it was true, I should be able to retrieve the lost daytimer. If I couldn't find the daytimer, then this voice may not be from God. I didn't argue with her and just waited for things to develop. On Sunday, after worship in the church, I took my son, who worked for Anderson Consulting, to the airport to fly to Chicago, which is their headquarters. Afterwards, I made a stop by the Lost and Found office of the United Airlines, since I was in the airport anyway. When I arrived in a small room, there are two employees sitting at the table. There was a small bundle tied with string together on the table, and on top of it was the black daytimer. Overjoyed, I was very happy to call out, "That's my daytimer." Without saying a word, the employees gave me my daytimer. They didn't ask for my ID. They didn't ask for which flight I lost my daytimer. My happiness was beyond words. While leaving, I casually asked them, "What are you going to do with this bundle?" They say, "We're just about to send it to Denver on the next flight and turn it to headquarters for processing." I was just in the nick of time to retrieve it. This made me even more joyful. When I walked out and looked through my planner, I was shocked. It turns out that I didn't write my name. I didn't write my address, not even my phone number on the planner. If they send it to Denver for processing, no one would be able to find it for me. However, my timing, no, God's timing, was impeccable. If I had gone to the Lost and Found any sooner, the package might not have even been on the desk. If I went any later, the package would have already been taken to Denver. I was choked with awe. I felt that God's hand was behind all these minute, detailed things, that the whole thing was arranged. Moreover, this confirmed the voice I heard about a week ago. "You will find it later." When I got home, I showed this daytimer to my wife, and she was speechless. This is just one of several testimonials. These testimonies tell me that God has indeed spoken to me, asking me to change the runway of my life, from teaching in a university to preaching for God. Since God invited me to participate in his work, and the God I believe is the creator and ruler of the universe. And he created me. He gave me my intelligence. He gave me my wisdom, my talents, and my capabilities. I must respond to his invitation. Looking back on the days of trusting God in the past many years, God has steered my family on a beautiful and benevolent path. And the more we go, the happier we are. Just as the Bible says, the road of the righteous is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until noon. A righteous man is a person who has a good relationship with God. That is, a person who knows Jesus and follows him. The path of God allowed God to reshape us and transform our characters to be more like Jesus Christ. This path becomes brighter and brighter until the day we meet Jesus face to face. My wife and I struggled for a while and finally decided to give up the professorship and go on to the road of evangelism, spreading the good news, that is, the meaning of life, to people who have yet to know Jesus. Retiring early from UT Arlington, I entered Dallas Theological Seminary to equip myself for full-time ministry. God directed us to Hong Kong to serve in a church for 12 years and retired in 2013. Looking back on our life, we have lacked nothing, and we are full of gratitude to God. I have found the meaning of life in Jesus Christ and hope others consider him as well and not reject him with prejudice like me before. Just take a good look at the life of Jesus Christ first, and then consider whether you want to know him more. I recommend to everyone the film, The Passion of the Christ. It won 3 Oscar awards in 2005, and it followed the Bible story faithfully. It's indeed a movie worth watching. You don't want to miss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pei. That's a beautiful story. That talking about meaning of life and changing life from a very honored professorship into something totally unknown. So thank you. Next, Professor Murat, would you share your view? And then we can have the dialogue.
Thank you. Thank you, Pei. As usual, you are an eloquent speaker. Such a beautiful message you related. We appreciate that. And may I share 1 or 2 pictures, if
Please.
you allow me?
Murat, I think you're a co-host.
Okay, I'll share them. Okay, this is Dr. Remier was not my PhD advisor, but I call him my grand mentor because he was such an important person in my life, more than probably my family. So I wonder if you see the picture.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
In this picture, Dr. Ye is in the middle. He had won the most prestigious gold medal from STPS, and I'm next to him. I was myself so honored by him getting this medal. And one more picture I have. Do you see this one too? Oh, This one, do you see this picture separately?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one with Dr. Ye visited us last year in Birmingham, and he related his insights on his life and the science, and check what kind of things I was doing. And this was during that time. I am so grateful for his visit with us and his role that he played in my life. You know, more than anybody influenced my life, that is Dr. Remy Ye. Next thing I'll share, an action. Do you see this picture?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, do you see the balls are rotating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now just be careful. Each ball is moving in a straight line. We will show you now. Do you see? Each ball, they are not really rotating. They are moving back and forth along those lines. And now we'll show you how this happens. We're adding one at a time. So this is first ball moving back and forth. And second ball moving back and forth. And third ball moving back and forth. Now, fourth one moving back and forth. And over time, you see fifth one, sixth one. So none of the balls are rotating really. They're just moving back and forth, okay? So this is interesting for many ways. You know, how our mind and our visual system can be tricked to perceive certain things. I will stop sharing. So, importance of this observation also leads my life. There are two things happened affecting my decisions in life. Both of them come from my mother. First one was about the time. I didn't care about how to use my time when I was a young kid, around high school age. And I was just riding my bike all day long, you know, all kinds of things, and not paying attention anything else. One day, my mother said, "Do you see your hands like this? If I put some water in your hands, can you hold that water here? Obviously, you cannot, it seeps through." He says, "Your life is that much water, and it is seeping through every second. If you're not careful with your time, I don't think you're going to be a happy person." That was the first lesson. The second lesson was about the resisting the events in my life. I didn't want to accept things coming my way. I always want to change things to different direction. As a result, I was struggling all the time with all the forces coming towards me. Therefore, I was not very happy person. I was fighting all the time, very forceful person. And then even getting into physical fights, because I want certain things certain ways, and other people don't want the other way, I fight. And that's how in my young age, and all the way to second year in college, it was like that. One day, my mom told me, "Son, I know you use your time properly, but what you cannot do is accept what is coming your way and use that, as opposed to fighting everything to do your way. Nothing in world is going to happen your way. You have to accept how the world works. What you have, you are in a room. In this room, there is a door. The life shows you there is a door. Use the door. Instead, you hit your head all over the walls. You try to go through the wall. You just cannot do it. You have to accept the realities of life. Life is like a water flowing from the river. You are just like a little bitty guy, some kind of a stone in this life. Why you are trying to stop the water? Why you are trying to mess up with other pebbles? Just accept this water coming your way. And then the other pebbles rolling with you, take advantage of their rolling. Go with the flow of life, in other words. That was she was telling me. I never forget these two lessons. And I started applying it. After second year in college, which I wasn't a good student actually. And after that, I became a better student. I did not fight with people anymore. I was able to integrate into the harmony of life. As a result, I was with peace with myself. No matter what comes my way, I was able to handle it in a very peaceful way. The last thing, Dr. Ye himself became a witness to it. In one of the universities that I was working before I came here, I came to this university from University of Texas at Austin. Before that, I was working in a university in Dallas. We had a chairman who was, these days you can tell these things. He was a very racist person. And he was against all the kinds of people who are not look like him, okay? So I felt that I'm a senior person because I was an associate professor. And because of industrial experience, I was feeling seniority. And I was trying to protect some young assistant professors this man was attacking. As a result, he became an enemy for me. He started fighting with me while he was going after these young people. And as a result, I had to leave that school and go to UT Austin. And during that time, we have to go through hard times. And Dr. Ye helped me during that time to find a position in Austin and everything else, consulting jobs. He took me to Taiwan, he took me to Brazil, all kinds of things he helped me with. As a result, by accepting what came my way, even that crazy guy, I said, Dr. Ye knows this. I was not really angry to that guy like in the old days. I say, okay, I accepted it. And as a result, I was in peace with myself. Being in peace with myself helped me to overcome and utilize the UT Austin position to go further, which again, Dr. Ye played the role to push me towards University of Alabama at Birmingham. And then I came here and we flourished, like Pei says about their life. Our family flourished about in all our aspects of our life. Our two kids moved to Birmingham. They established their lives. We are very good shape because of this accepting things in life. Now, coming back to how I think about the meaning of life, I cannot help but accept that as I show you these rotating balls, these balls were not rotating, they were moving back and forth. in many natural events in life that we see is like these balls. So many natural events have something mysterious, interesting behind it, if you are able to see it. If I didn't draw those lines on that picture, you would think that there will be balls rotating around the circle. Our lives go by like that. As we see the light, as we touch the things, these are the kind of things that our body experience, and then all of a sudden, it becomes part of our belief system. I believe as human beings, to appreciate the meaning of life, we should be able to seek. In fact, every religion pushes that. We should be able to seek what is behind these things that we experience. What is behind these things that we see? Ancient philosophers, religious leaders, since the beginning of time, they are looking for these kind of foundational meanings to elevate and make us see things like rotating balls. What are those things? There is only on the material science, the one game in town. That game is the scientific thought process. Scientific thought process allows us to see what is behind these scenes. There is fundamentally two types of scientific thought process. One scientific thought process assumes our surrounding, behind everything, there is a material things, and these material things interact. These are the laws. These laws are Galileo's, Newton's, and Einstein's material laws. But there is another aspect. These are not the particles, but energy or waves, which is Maxwell and other quantum mechanical people, etc. These two philosophical, scientific worldviews try to explain what is behind these balls, these lines, what makes these lines. One theory says particles. The other theory says waves or energy. I believe that not these two things, but these two things, particles and waves, are special cases of what is going on is communication. Communication, if we make communication enough mathematically, as a result, we can match Newtonian as well as Maxwellian theories. So that is the thing I am pursuing to understand from the scientific point of view, meaning of life. And that is my focus in the rest of my life. And I'm hoping I'm very close to this with my colleagues to solve this problem, to represent these lines that you see or the material things and the wave things as a system of communication. That's my goal. And also searching for the meaning of life. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Murat. And I think both of you have given Pei and you have given us a different path. But the meaning of life depends on, how you feel and how you do. All right. So, Pei, you have any comment on Murat's talk, and Murat, you have any comment on Pei's talk, and you can start a ping pong.
Well, Pei's talk is amazing, of course, and I have no objection to his philosophy. Obviously, I cannot have. Furthermore, the system of Christian thought processes is consistent with the life, provided that you have to just follow what the the thought processes are, rather than following particular individuals or idiosyncrasies of books and the churches and stuff. But fundamentally, nothing is wrong in those values. I think my values are Christian values, but my philosophical belief from that emotional point of view is more closer to Buddhism, thinking wise, but from the value point of view, I admire and follow Christian values.
Well, I don't know what to say, but I think Murat, your search is very interesting. But what I want to say is that in the Bible, there is a Christian worldview. The worldview, any kind of a philosophy or any kind of a faith system, has a worldview, and this worldview must at least answer 4 questions. The first question is where you're from. And the second question is the meaning. And the third question is the morality. And the fourth factor is the destiny. So if you answer these 4 consistently in your worldview, then that worldview you can satisfy yourself with. But if you cannot answer these 4 questions in your worldview, then the meaning of that you're searching for may not be on a solid stand. That's my comment. Okay.
Okay.
In your talking about worldview, like other speaker who talk about, right? It's basically what the previous speaker have talked about is it's transformation from I to we, which is what you have done. I mean, you have dedicated your life to preach gospel, all right? And not about yourself, not about your publishing more papers or about, getting other fame, but you dedicate yourself to other people. But so is Murat in that sense, right? I mean, he is pursuing on a single difficult problem, but he is also dedicate himself to a problem which affect many people, not just himself. So while the meaning of life from both of you may come from different point of view, but in the end, like Marilyn Slits have talked about, is from intention to surrender, so to speak. You surrender to the God's message, and Murat surrender to the problem that at his hand. Am I interpreting correctly?
I think what I can say is that in my worldview, we have this answer to the origin, the morality, the meaning, and the destiny. These 4 factors, we have the answer to that. But I don't know if Murat has the answer to these 4 factors or not.
Well, if Christian values are universal, you don't have to believe all aspects of Christianity to follow the Christian values. There are many people from many religious denominations. They are honest people, they have the integrity, they are good people. They don't have to believe all the idiosyncrasies of one particular system. In fact, I used to listen, Brother Camping, a fundamentalist Christian, in the talk radio, going back and forth to work. Many years, like 5, 6, 7 years or more, 10 years, I listen every night, going back and forth, Brother Camping. His message, most of the time was good, but sometimes he was following strictly the rules dictated by the book he has in his hand, which was the King James Bible. At one night, one guy called, he says, my wife ran away. And I have 2 kids. I have been taking care of these 2 kids for 2 years now. I have been in all kinds of trouble. Recently in the church, I met another woman. Can I marry this woman? Brother Campin look at his book and then read from the book. He says, you know what God is saying, that you cannot, because your wife is still living. If your wife is living, you cannot marry. But he says, I asked my wife, I still see her. I asked, she's not coming back. Then Brother Camping says, you pray more. You know, if keep praying, maybe your wife will come. So that part of Brother Camping, I don't buy because it is not, it's not part of, in my opinion, Christian values. Some aspect of Christianity may be true, but it is not part of Christian values. Therefore, in other words, I am not strictly binded by one type of religious denominations. All the details, you know, that is my weakness. You know, I cannot accept that. So this poor guy, he has 2 kids in his hand, following Brother Camping's advice. He wasn't marrying second time. So what do you think about that? Was Brother Camping right or wrong?
I think we're not here to talk about specific cases. We're talking about in general that, you know, you have a system you're pursuing, and in that system, can you answer the question of origin, of destiny, of morality, and of meaning? If you can answer that in the system you're pursuing, then you're fine, no problem. Let's not try to take up a specific cases to attack one another for that.
No, this is not an attack. It is essentially an observation that
But we are talking about the meaning of life, and you're talking about your system. That is what you consider as meaning of life in your life. Then you need to answer these 4 factors.
Well, those factors are answered in the Christian values. Christian values address all those. If you're a believer of Christian values, then you address those. But that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that you have to try to convince
I'm
everybody.
not convincing you, Murat. I'm talking about your system. I mean, you're finding meaning in your system, right? That's what you're presenting. Now, I'm asking for that system, your worldview. You need to answer these 4 questions.
Well, like I said, if I declare I am the follower of Christian values.
No, we're not talking about Christian values, Murat, because you are not
Oh.
following it. Okay, we're talking
Okay.
about your ball, your rotating ball. Okay,
Yes.
your
Yes.
rotating ball is your system. Okay, in that case, what is your worldview? What is the meaning of life in that system?
Like I expressed, that everybody's, me included, they gather the meaning of life through their experiences throughout their life. You cited 2 experiences, and based on those experiences, you expressed how you choose to follow the rest of your life. I cited also 2 experiences, which was not biblical experiences, but which was my mother's advices.
But what does that have to do with the rolling ball?
Oh, rolling ball, the third point was that perceptions that our brain perceive is not what it looks like. That's the simple essence of that ball. You know, ball actually wasn't rolling. It just appears to be rolling. As I demonstrated, the balls weren't rolling. There were lines going back and forth. There are many balls going back and forth, back and forth. No balls were rolling. We just see it as rolling. I demonstrated that.
Well, what does that have to do with the meaning of life, Murat?
Meaning of, to be able to understand the meaning of life, we should look like you are doing also in a different method behind the visible things. What you are doing exactly like what I'm doing. You're looking behind the visible things. For example, your experience of finding your notebook, you're trying to find what is behind this. That's correct. And then you are deciding what is behind it, certain ways. All I'm saying is meaning of life is looking what is behind the perceivable events. The rolling balls were the perceivable events, just like finding your notebook or other things happen to you, and then try to figure out behind this. I was just showing that meaning of life supposed to be in our own ways. We are looking behind the events happen to us and others. That's all I was saying. So you are not far different than me. Our methods are different, but we both are looking meaning of life behind the things happening to us and others. Right?
No comment.
Well, there's a question here. Why are those 4 questions the golden rules to evaluate the system? I guess that's a question addressed to you, Pei.
It's not golden rules. It's just your worldview needs to answer that consistently, coherently. And you need to understand your worldview that actually has certain qualities.
In that case, for example, Murat, to you, I guess, as a scientist, all right, as a scholar, which I think Pei also, in your early days anyway, that understand that the meaning in this case is dedication to tackle a very tough problem that is scientifically not solved before, like many of us have done. So does that describe your meaning of life in a sense, Murat?
Look, I'm not claiming I know anything. As in this audience, I tell my class same way, in this audience, everybody knows a million things that I have never heard of it, and I wouldn't understand, and I cannot see. That all I'm saying is very simple. When we live our life, we face some events in our life with some sickness, some suffering, some joy, all kinds of things. And then we look for why these things happen to appreciate the meaning of life. The way methods looking behind could be many ways. One method could be fully spiritual, a what broader sense, without saying any particular book or any particular God. You may be spiritually trying to answer the meaning of life. There are people who have no spirituality. They just say meaning of life is what do you see? Okay, it's black and white. So those guys, they have their way of meaning of life. But a whole bunch of other people, thinking people, try to figure out what is the meaning of life behind the events. And in that respect, Pei and I were not too different. He is looking meaning of life, things happen, and then he's looking away behind it, and he discovers a path that in this 4 identifiable entities and a certain kind of book and certain kind of God, he says, that's the way he discovered. I'm still not discovered. I am looking for a meaning of life behind these things. But the process of looking for these things is the meaning of life as a result.
Well, maybe I can translate it a little bit. I think in most religious case, like Pei or in Buddhism or others, I think in the previous few discussions, the speakers talk a lot about compassion, being compassionate, right? I think when you reach a state of compassion, then there's meaning in it. Now, compassion may not be able to be quantified, but I wonder whether Pei's 4 rules is sort of a sort of quantification for the notion of compassion, which is soft, invisible, but you can feel it when you see it.
Yeah. You know, I want to show you one little picture here. Okay, just 1 second. And this is, you may call meaning of life if you want, but this is, you know, do you see this butterfly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we were playing a game in our family one time. Everybody was asking, when you come back to this world, if you come back as an animal, which one you will choose? I had chosen a butterfly. And I believe it's a beautiful thing. And I don't mind being a butterfly. You know, it doesn't hurt anybody. It lives its life. And to some perspective, not very long, but it lives the full life, you know. And it's a beautiful thing to be a butterfly, right? So other people were choosing, like, my wife wants to be a lion. Can you imagine that? So that means they want to control things. We should not look for controlling things. We should not look for convincing people that we find it, and then you come my way. Well, maybe not true, right? We should be always, if we're looking for a lack of ego, if we're looking for humbleness, we should accept we don't know. If we know and claim we know, there is a problem, in my opinion. No matter what it is. You can bring Richard Feynman here, Einstein here. He says, I know everything. Well, I will doubt that. You know, how do you know everything, right? So we should say, we are little people and we have little bitty brain. Maybe we see things, maybe not, but we are looking for it. You know, if you keep looking for it, then it is an admirable thing. If you think you found it and nobody else knows it, then I have some suspicions on that, because if you notice, now I have to be political, all the Trump people, they found things, they know what the right thing is. And I don't. So that's my problem.
Well, Murat, let me ask you, Pei, would you like to respond? Or you?
Yeah, I admire Murat's humility, and that's exactly what my story is about. You know, the God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. Okay, and we need to be humble in everything. But I think that Christianity is different from others, is because Christians believe that the world has a God, and the God is the creator, and the God is the ruler of the universe. And if that's the case, that the meaning of life for all the people actually are given by God. It's not something we go to search. Yeah, well, I think the reason that God has given us the Bible, the book, is because God wants to show us the meaning of life.
I have a different question for Murat.
Yes.
You see, you you're instrumental in the establishment of the Society for Design and Process Science.
Yes.
And all my life, I've known you to be a great designer, in various kind of design. All right. I mean, well, your balls rolling as a design, so to speak. All right. To me, or to many people, design represents elegance, harmony. All right. But there's some, if you look deeply into some design, there's compassion. Would you agree to that? And
yes.
how do you express in your sense?
Okay, compassion, without compassion, we cannot be considered human, in my opinion. I use this example with my students. Imagine a little bitty animal running and a big, strong lion chasing. And the strong lion reaches it, is going to eat this animal. Then he says, oh, poor little thing, you're so weak, I'm not gonna eat you. As you see, no lion does that. But the only people, potentially, humans have the potential to do it. That is the compassion. Human go, try to eat this animal. He says, oh, little baby, okay, I'm not gonna do that. See, humans have that capacity. However, many of them may not use that capacity. And that is where humanity fails. Of course, we have to utilize all our human capacity. And that is not an easy thing. Therefore, I always tell sometimes the students, just because you were born looking like a human being doesn't mean you are a human being yet. It takes time. It takes learning. It takes experiencing and then developing this passion for other people, for everything else, little bitty butterflies, little bitty stones, everything else around you. And that's the only way you progress towards being a human. And very few human beings reach that pinnacle. And they die before being a human. And then they go to church, they go to mosque, they pray, they do all kinds of things, but they don't reach that serenity of being fully compassionate, fully given. No. Jesus Christ was probably one of those guys. And he tried to pass the word to people. He says, someone hits you, don't hit back. Isn't that amazing? He was passing these messages. But all of a sudden, people start writing books and they lost the message. He also said, people throwing stones to a woman because he cheated or something. He said, look at your face first before you throw the first stone. See, there are many stories in many religious textbooks along these lines to elevate human beings' compassion element and humbleness, but humans have hubris. They want to go to moon, they want to do this, they think they can control the earth. No, they can't do that. They have to accept the fact the earth is moving certain ways like a river rolling, and then there's certain things happening, and you have to accept. Another thing about design, you ask about design. If you think about it, the universe as we understand with our little mind have been billions of years around. That means many events were happening and many events canceling each other out. And eventually those cancellations reach to a stable point. That's the one we see. When we see that stable point, we say, wow, what a good design. Is it really? Or is it the time? All these cancellations you put in a box bunch of balls and hitting each other like a thermodynamic box, and then merging with each other, kicking each other around. Eventually, number of balls reduce, and they start moving in a harmonious fashion. And 1 billion years pass in that box. And when you look at the box, billion years later, you see, oh my God, what a good design. Look at that, nothing hit each other. So you think it's design, but the time element eventually reached that position maybe. But I'm not saying we know these things. All I'm saying, humanity should learn to be, don't have hubris. They should be, like Pei says, they should learn to be humble. Humbleness means expressing your ignorance in part. If you know things, I don't know. We cannot 100% sure we know what we're doing. There is a question, Melody. How do we understand God from a Buddhist perspective? Can we equivalent God maybe to the universe or the emptiness, as Buddha is an enlightened one, not the creator or ruler? He discovered the truth of the universe. Therefore, should we Buddhists understand universe with natural laws as cause and effect, is maybe what Christian may define as God. I guess this is for you, Pei.
Well, Murat, also for you as well.
Okay.
In the sense, if you look from quantum physics point of view, everything's interconnected with everything else.
Yes, but
I'd like
let's
to
Pei
answer
answer it
first. I may.
Yes, you should go, Pei.
Okay, I think Christian God is not just a natural law. Christian God is a person. A Christian God is the one that creates the whole world. And that's why Christian God is seeking all the people to come to him. And that's why I say in the beginning that meaning of life is seeking you. That's Jesus Christ is seeking after you. And the reason I came here to share this experience and to share my faith is also a way that Christianity is trying to inform others about the meaning of life. The meaning of life is not a philosophical idea, is not just a knowledge. The meaning of life is Jesus Christ, is a person, and the person is pursuing after you. Okay? Thank you.
In my understanding of Buddhism, they didn't have a particular God like other religions. And that was pretty attractive for my understanding. But our research show that to be able to understand the fundamentals of the materials, like, for example, how the electron occur, how the neutron occur in a moving universe or something, our research showed that we need to start with one point. It's not even a point. It is like starting a initial event. And that is like a kind of a quantum event. And everything else dynamically evolves from that, because universe is moving in one direction, contrary to what some of the earlier understanding, it goes all expand like this. Instead, it's that motion shows the expansion. As a result, you can represent all the things we are seeing, experiencing from one small event, emanates, and then develops in the beginning, for example, if it's something is moving very fast, the front part becomes the proton, the back part becomes the electron. And then, although it's part of the same thing because it's speeding up, one is faster than the other one. So the perception, like these balls and lines show, perception is slightly different than what it really is. These kind of calculations it teaches us, again, very, very small part of how the universe works. We shouldn't be brag too much about what we know in science. So, but philosophically, Buddhism is pretty attractive framework of thoughts. And also, I mean, Christianity fundamentally is also very profound, as everybody recognizes, especially in the value system. You know, nobody can say anything against Christian values. Every one of the values are human elements, so nobody can say anything against them. I'm not either. What I'm saying, however, no matter which belief system is, including scientific belief system, if you claim that you know things, I doubt that. You don't claim. Who are you that to claim you understand universe and nobody else does? So, or some belief system says, okay, we understood everything, and then read this book or listen my words, and I know everything. Nobody else. 8 billion people on Earth now, maybe 9 right now. You know, all these people have brains and thinking. Can we claim that even in scientific means, can we claim we know things? No. Everything we know, a little bit wrong, a little bit right. And all we have to say, look, if we want to understand the meaning of life, be humble and look for it.
Well, thank you both. And I think our time is almost up, but I have a final question perhaps to both of you. I want to go back to the notion of compassion. All right. And the question to Murat is that, how do you express compassion in your design? Or in any design, all right? If you look at architect or other beautiful designs, mostly they look at elegance, harmony, and beauty, things like that. But few has include compassion or in the design of, scientific stuff. So
it's a very beautiful way some, I think, Eastern architecture does. They show, on the right side and left side of this architecture, they don't make it very perfect. On purpose, they make a little bit off. The reason they want to show they are not perfect themselves, they want to show that the message is to the world that we is so compassionate for understanding everything else that we don't want to brag and have hubris showing that we're perfect. And they make the right side a little bit off than the left side. And that's a good message to the world. Humans should get that. Because human has the capacity, like I said, to be compassionate. But that capacity doesn't mean they use it. That's the message.
Well, I just want to make before Pei answer the question about design. If you look at the architecture evolution in the Western architecture, all right, you look at the famous designs by the famous architect here, Guggenheim Museum and others. Initially, it started from beauty and harmony and others, all right, elegance. But if you also, more recently, there's the notion of green architect, all right, and initiated by a famous architect and chemist who talk about zero waste. That, to me, is compassion, all right?
That's correct, yes.
All right, and so my question to Pei is that in a difficult situation whether it's in the tackling of the environment, hunger, or other things in the world. If a Christian were the chief architect for tackling this problem, what would he do? What would be a Christian view in solving a particular problem? What would be the thing he would not do, or he would definitely will do?
I think Christian would, first of all, pray in that situation. He wants to have communication with God, and which is transcendental. It's not just human knowledge, because we understand, we accept the whole world is created by God. So God knows everything, not us, okay? But God is the creator. He knows everything. So we want to have a communication. That's why in Christian, the prayer is very important. That's the communication between this world and the spiritual world. Once you have this communication line opened up and directed, then you will be followed. You can follow that direction this way. So you have a close relationship with God. And that's the first thing. What you don't do is that, of course, you don't do those killing and all those the evil things. But one thing important is that you know the examples of Jesus Christ in the Bible. You see his compassion. You see how he does things in a difficult situation. You follow him in addition to your prayer. I mean, that's the way that God has shown us. He set up the world this way, and if you follow that, you will be able to lead a good a solution to that. But one important thing is that God, in the Christian view, is everyone is a sinner. That's it. Is why many people won't accept that. But if you look into the real world, the reason we go to the airport, we go through so many steps of checking, that you know that the reason is because human beings are evil, okay? Of course, we're not talking about individually how you are evil, but overall, no one is perfect. And that's the reason that Christianity wants people to come to know God. If you know Jesus, and that's the reason I recommend the picture, the passion of the Christ. If you look into that, you will see that his way of dealing with problems are different. And his way will open you up. That's why I was saying in the beginning that meaning of life has already been there. That meaning of life is Jesus Christ. He wants to show you, and he wants to search you. He wants to seek you to follow him. So it's not we expend our energy to try to find the meaning of life. That's because human beings are limited. That Murat agrees, we are limited. We have a small brain. I mean, there's no way we can comprehend the entire universe. But the God who created the universe has that kind of capability, and he wants to show us that his way is the best way.
Well, thank you. There's one last question. Pei, probably is that for you, right? If God created the world, who did God create it?
Well, there's the first cause of it in any system. Okay, if you ask that, then it will be endless a question. Okay, God is not a human being. Okay, God is God. He is above. He is the creator, and we are the creature created. So there's a difference in levels. Okay.
Well, okay. So that sort of answer the following question, right? Everyone is a human being. Everyone created the world, right?
Right.
Well, I want to thank both of you for the wonderful discussions tonight that give us things to think about. Both of you, each of you bring a different viewpoint to the discussion about the meaning of life, which is diverse and from one can look from multiple ways, and you to provide at least two different viewpoints. And so I think now it's almost 9 p.m. and I sure appreciate both of you participate. It's very late for you. And so I would like to ask Dama Jing Yong, who is the host this evening, to give the merit dedication.
Ray, you want to talk about next Sunday's event?
Okay, so my apologies. We have three more in this series, and next Sunday is a conversation between Professor Claire Brown and Dama Mes Hanying. And Professor Brown is the economist in UC Berkeley, and her recent book a few years ago on Buddhist economics had been well received because basically the economic system in the world focused on capitalism really doesn't work, all right? And so Dama Mes Hanying is a senior nun in the City of 10,000 Buddhas, and for more than 30 years. So that will be an interesting discussion among the two of them. So hope you'll join us next Sunday evening as well. Again, thanks to Murat and Pei for the wonderful discussions this evening. Dama Mes Jing Yong.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
This is our dedicated merit. I think this evening we'll chant this in Chinese, and there's an English translation just next to that. 愿以此功德，庄严佛净土，常保此众恩，下济三途苦。若有见闻者，悉发菩提心，尽此一报身，同生极乐国。Usually we will make 3 head bows. If you care, you can follow us. Also about our founder, Venerable Shenhua, 3 bows. Okay, I'd like to thank 2 speakers for the wonderful talk this evening. Also, Dr. Ye for the moderate for this, and Dr. Chen Yu for the translation. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.